Yokoso minasan. Today we'll be building the Gundam Fusion from Iron-Blooded Orphans. Oh geez. What is this sorcery? How can this be possible? There's no way. Oh my. Okay, let's close the box. This doesn't make any sense. Okay, let's see. Oh goodness. Okay, that's better. That makes more sense. Yes. So today we'll be building the Gundam Fusion. Building and also painting it. Very fun kit to build, doesn't take too long, and there are great surface details on the whole thing. So this will actually be the second Fusion that I ever build. Way back in 2018, I built my very first one. I didn't know anything about the Iron-Blooded Orphans series, and I still don't because I've never watched it, but I mean, I saw the kit, I saw the box art, and I was sold immediately. I knew I wanted to buy one. I was immediately captivated by how bulky he is. I really like bulky kits, and also it reminds me of a turtle. He's cute. Like, it's a cute kit. I just want to meet him in a park one day and feed him some bread. Like I said before, I don't know anything about Iron-Blooded Orphans, but seeing that face was enough to convince me that this guy probably wasn't very nice. Honestly, he just looks like a massive edgelord. I imagine someone who listens to Nine Inch Nails and Linkin Park, My Chemical Romance, you know, as they go into battle. Which, I mean, if I'm being totally honest, I would also do. I can't think of a scenario where I wouldn't. I think especially if I was living in any of the Gundam universes, I would also probably be a massive edgelord. Because, yeah, we're all depressed if we're in the Gundam universes, right? It's scary. From beginning to end, the entire build took around an hour or an hour and 20 minutes. That was without seam line removal or anything like that. I just wanted to go for a straight, simple build. I did use Tamiya cement to glue all the pieces together because it kind of works to remove seam lines a bit. And also, I'm just lazy. I don't like removing all of the seam lines all the time. That's on me. There were 2 seam lines specifically, though, that I knew that I had to get rid of because they're massive. And I'll show that later. This will be the 4th kit that I've painted totally over the course of all of the builds that I've done so far. And I really want to go for a clean look on this one. I always tend to just weather the crap out of the ones that I do end up painting because it's really easy to cover up your mistakes. Also, my memory card didn't record a lot of the video because it ran out of space. Lastly, we have the hammer. The hammer is wicked. I could not live without that hammer. And then kind of the dinky little gun. I don't know why he has a massive hammer and then literally just a tiny little MP5, but who am I to judge? Onto the final assembly, so that I can give him one last look over before he gets painted, just to kind of appreciate him before I totally ruin him, because that's foreshadowing for what happened later. And here I am trying to pose him and make him look cool. I am awful at posing my Gundams. I wish I could get better. I'm always trying to, but you live and learn. I don't know why I kind of just cannot pose. I'm so bad at it. And here he is before departure, just in a bunch of pieces. And now it's prime time. Instead of going for my typical black that I always do, because honestly the Vallejo black primer is the best, I went with a gray this time. A Vallejo gray primer, because everything I use is Vallejo, because it smells great. After one coat, it becomes really easy to see where seam lines need to be filled in. And as we can see on the back of the legs, there are some really large gaps. But we can just fill those in with a toothpick and some Vallejo putty. The Vallejo putty works pretty well. It doesn't shrink, which is great. Honestly, I haven't used any other putty, so I'm not sure if that is an issue. But so far with the Vallejo ones, I have had no issues. After it dries, you can just give it a really quick sand down, and it fills in the hole really great. I didn't even have to do more than one coat of the Vallejo putty. Sometimes in the past, I have had it where the Vallejo putty will sink into the hole, but this time it just took one coat. And after that was done, I gave him another prime. Actually, in total, he went through 3 priming phases. There was the first one to find those seam lines that I needed to fill in. And then the last two just to stop any of the colors from bleeding through. As we can see, it looks super uniform now. There's a uniform gray on the whole kit. And my initial concerns of the darker parts bleeding through the primer really didn't happen. I was really happy with it. After allowing the primer to set for a day, it was time to get on to the main base color, which was just a tan from Reaper with about 1 part ivory from Vallejo, and then mixed it with a 1-to-1 ratio of the Reaper Flow Improver with a few drops of water. Reaper paints are pretty great in that they don't have to really be thin too much, at least not as much as Vallejo paints do. For example, if I'm just doing a straight paint job with Vallejo model color, I find that I need to thin it out to about 2 times thinner to 1 time paint. With Reaper, it's like half that. You can almost spray it directly from the bottle. After the base coat had dried, I just got down to adding some masking fluid onto all of the bits that I wanted to stay the same brown as before. And this is where the cracks really started to show in my overall end result. I should have been way more patient and deliberate with where I was applying the masking liquid, but I didn't. So in the end result, there was a lot of overspray onto other parts, and as we'll see, I straight up forgot to cover one of the parts with any sort of masking fluid or tape. Also, I don't know why this is, because I've never experienced this before. I've used Abtelung liquid mask in the past, and it wasn't the same as the Vallejo stuff. Maybe it's because the Vallejo stuff is supposed to be non-toxic compared to everything else, but anyways, the Vallejo masking fluid smells like stinky feet. That might be kind of a bad statement to use because maybe everyone else has different feet that stink differently. That's a weird sentence too, but anyways, for me, this is like if I go to the gym and I do an hour of cardio and I don't change my socks, and then when I come home and I take my shoes off, it's the exact same smell out of the bottle. So if you've never used Vallejo liquid mask before and you want to, that's just a warning to you. You might want to cover your nose while you're doing this. I didn't, and that was a big mistake because I got a headache. I was just sitting and being like, all right, when is this going to be done? Maybe that's why I made so many mistakes, is because I was not being patient, because the smell was literally driving me insane. I'm also definitely going to pick up a silicone brush after this because the bristles in a regular brush just get absolutely gnarled and impossible to work with in 3 minutes with liquid mask. After all the liquid stinky feet had dried, it was time to just lighten up the base body. For that, it was actually just a straight spray of the ivory color again from Vallejo. Also, that color of ivory really made me want to run to McDonald's and get a McFlurry. Almost uncontrollably. Also, the initial brown made me want coffee. This, all in all, the colors that I chose for this build just made me want to eat and drink a bunch of coffee and ice cream. After the ivory had dried, it was back to just masking the parts that I didn't want to be a different color, because that's how we paint. And also, really embarrassingly, I thought that this was the gray primer color, and I thought that I was editing over footage of the primer. And then I realized, no, there's already liquid mask down, so clearly this is the ivory. Yeah, it was really embarrassing, and I thought that I had really messed up, and I was really scared. After laying down all the stinky masking fluid, time to take out the katana and cut up some masking tape. After the masking tape had been applied, it was time to paint the final little details on the model kit. For this, I picked my favorite red from Vallejo, which is vermilion. And because Vallejo is Spanish, I learned that the Spanish word for vermilion is vermelón. Vermellón. Sorry, I'm actually reading the tube right now, but it sounds cool. I like that. Vermellón. It's a really good red. Not really used enough, I don't think. I recommend everyone give it a try. If you want to paint red, try some vermilion. My next detail color was Mountain Stone from Reaper. I kind of over-thinned this one, so it took about 6 coats. 6 really, really light coats to get it to not run off of the model. But it's a really cool color. I wanted to add some contrast because the main colors of the Gyujin are so bright, and I felt like, you know, let's add some dark colors. The weapons were also treated to the Mountain Stone color because it looks like a really cool gray, and weapons make sense for them to be gray, I guess. So there you go. Just painting them up gray. And this was the color that I chose that I really wish I had chosen another color. It's Corporeal Shadow from Reaper again. This is for the inner frame. In the end, I just felt that it didn't really work with everything else. It kind of clashed in an odd way, but you live and learn. Lastly, for the actual silver pieces, aka the verniers, I just gave them a quick burst with Vallejo Silver. Just straight silver from Vallejo Game Air. So that's when I found the huge error that I made in the gap. I completely forgot to mask that part, and I did my best to just cover it with a layer of the ivory again. And now that everything had been fully painted, it was time to take off all of the masking work that I had done, and I really saw all of the mistakes that I had made, all of the overpainting, overflow of paint that had happened or had escaped, because I hadn't properly put down enough masking materials. The more of the masking material I took off, the more depressed I became with the result of my painting in this case. There was just, honestly, there was paint everywhere. There was paint everywhere where it shouldn't have been, is how I should say that. And it made me really, really sad. And I made this giant stinky pile of everything. There's my shame. And yeah, so what I ended up doing after he was assembled again, or I should maybe sub-assembled, I basically just got really sad because I felt like I had let him down, and I'd let Bandai down, and I'd let myself down, and I just didn't know what to do. So I did what anyone would do in this situation, and I went to my computer room to be sad and to drink a lot of gin and eat a lot of food. And yeah, that was the state that I had left him in. Like I said, I just got really, really sad and I didn't know how to proceed. I basically, at this point, I just felt like a really, really big failure and just had to walk away for a bit. But yeah, that's where I'll leave the video for now. This is actually a surprise part 1 because there is a part 2. There's a redemption arc on the way. Just not now. As always though, if you've made it this far, thank you very much. I really appreciate your watching my videos, and I love you all, and see you on the next one. Which is hopefully much, much, much less depressing in the end than this one was.